all the kings that ruled up until the coming to power of Lucius Tarquinius Jr, let me call him Jr to differentiate him from his father, had ruled with respect to the rule of law, basically. They either ruled with the respecting rule of law, or they set up protocols that were very clear. They also were all elected by the senators and the people, and they all made sure that their decisions were approved by the Senate. They didn't just rule by however they wanted. They always sought for the approval of the Senate. But that dramatically changed when Lucius Tarquinius Jr came to power. I welcome you to my YouTube channel, where I discuss or I explore ancient texts and try to find interesting tales in them. At the moment, I'm going through the book, or a collection of books, that is titled From the Founding of the City by Livius Titus or Livy. These are a collection of books that were written about 2,000 years ago, and they cover the history of Rome in a period of about 700 years, beginning from around 750 BCE, around there, to 0 AD or 0 BCE. If you're not subscribed so that you don't miss any of the videos that I upload. Plus, also that will let me reach a wider audience. Now, it's important to point out that Livy does talk about doubts about who Lucius Tarquinius was, Jr. He says that there are some scholars during his time some used to say that he was the grandson of Lucius Tarquinius Priscus, and others were saying he was the grandson. So there was that discussion about 700 years, no, 500 years, I would say, after he had ruled. But Livy thinks or writes that after going through whatever documents there were, this guy was the son of Lucius Tarquinius Priscus. Now, I've described in the previous video how he came to power. He was the seventh king of Rome, and he came after Romulus, Pompilius, Hostilius, Marcius, Priscus, and Servius Tullius. So Lucius, one thing that became so apparent to the Romans was that this guy was very arrogant. And in fact, it wasn't long after he came to power, they gave him the name of Superbus, or the arrogant one, or the proud one. That's the name he started going by, because he was so arrogant. And also he became very cruel, and this cruelty started almost immediately. Of course, him coming to power, he came to power by force. He murdered the previous king, Servius Tullius, and now after he's murdered the previous king, you would have expected that after the previous king is dead, he would have at least let his hatred go and just did the right thing for the previous king. He didn't. In fact, Livy tells us that he denied the previous king the appropriate burial for a king. He denied him that respect, so it wasn't done. And then not long after he came to power, he put to death leading senators, and as long as he suspected that you are not on his side, you are gone. He would send people to finish you off. That's what he did. So initially he goes against the senators. He kills the leading senators. Whoever he disliked or he thought was a threat had to go. And Livy tells us, maybe because he was aware of the things he was doing, this guy, Lucius Tarquinius Jr, became the first Roman king to walk around with bodyguards. This was not common. From Romulus' time, kings didn't walk around with bodyguards. And up until Servius' time, they didn't walk around with bodyguards. But for the first time, a Roman king started surrounding himself with bodyguards. And that's because Lucius Tarquinius Jr understood that he was making many enemies, and he was making Romans very uncomfortable, and maybe some would consider to do something about it. And in fact, while the other kings had been elected by senators and the public, he wasn't, and he never made even an effort to seek for that approval. He didn't persuade people, but he only used force. And Livy says he put no trust in the affection of his people. He was compelled to safeguard his authority by fear. So he didn't even make an effort to try to have the people like him, or to try to make the people vote for him. He didn't. He just decided he was going to use force. And this was the first time. Even though Servius had come to power without the vote, he did seek it. Not long after, he did go to war with the neighboring tribes and try to make the Romans like him at least, and they liked him, and the senators approved him, and the people later on voted for him to be king. But for Lucius Tarquinius Jr, he never made an effort. He just ruled by force, and then he inflicted death. He exiled people, took property from people he suspected to be a threat to him, and he didn't only get rid of people he thought were a threat to him. Livy tells us that he also started going against people who had something he wanted. If you had land he wanted, if you had property he wanted, he will have you either exiled or killed, and then he will take that. So he started hurting people simply to gain, and that is something that had never happened before. And he started, after getting rid of the senators, he never replaced them. Livy tells us that for this king was the first to break with the custom handed down by his predecessors of consulting Senate on all occasions. He became the first to do things the way he wants. No consulting senators. He didn't appoint any. He killed them and got rid of them and forgot about it. And Livy tells us that he governed without any advice from anyone except mostly his household and mostly Tullia, his wife. Yeah, so that's how things turned out for Romans when Lucius Tarquinius Jr. became the king.